is the #1 free agent target for the Chicago Bears in this year's free agency class? I'm going to give you that in just a little bit. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking, of course, some NFL, here to talk about the Chicago Bears and here to talk about free agency in regards to the Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, folks. Trying to give you guys the latest and greatest with the Bears and keep you guys updated all throughout the offseason. You thought that videos would stop with the offseason? Here, heck no. We have more content than ever with draft, with free agency. There's just a bunch of stuff coming up, trade, rumors, etc. So stay locked here. Make sure you're following me on all my social platforms. As always, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. Let's get into it. All right, so I thought long and hard about this, right? If you put a gun to my head and said, Faiz, give me the #1 guy the Bears should target, who is the guy that Ryan Poles needs to make the phone call for as soon as free agency opens, all right? Great question, right? So who is that guy? And you start with this. What are the positions of need for the Bears? And really it's 3 positions that by far and away take the biggest, lead in terms of what's more important. And that is offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver. And I could say cornerback, safety, I'll just say secondary. In order, I would rank it offensive line, receiver, secondary. Okay? That's how I'd rank it. So, based off that, it would have to be an offensive lineman, right? Because that is the biggest position of need. Well, taking a look at the Chicago Bears offensive line, let's project it out for this upcoming season, right? If nothing else happens. At the left tackle position, you had Jason Peters started there pretty much all season. That was because Tevin Jenkins, our rookie offensive lineman, was hurt with back surgery all season long. So he's going to slide into that left tackle spot and replace Jason Peters. He's probably going to retire. He's damn near 40 years old. He already is 40 years old. And then at the guard spot, the left guard spot, we had Cody Whitehair there. I presume he's going to stay at that spot. At center, Sam Mustipher had a bad year. Expected a lot out of Sam Mustipher, just did not get it done. And he's set to be a free agent. Interesting. Keep that in mind. Right guard, James Daniels, who was solid, right? And he is also set to be a free agent. He's going to cost you a pretty penny. I do want to bring him back. He's a young, reliable offensive lineman who can play multiple positions. But the question always is dollar amount, right? How much are you going to pay him? And then at the right tackle spot, we had Jermaine Afidi, who was an absolute abomination. Larry Borum, another rookie that we drafted in last year's draft should slide into that right tackle spot. Now, again, the offensive line could move around in terms of who's going to play what position, but that's really what I've got the projections at, right? Tevin Jenkins, Cody Whitehair, Sam Mustipher, James Daniels, and Larry Borum. Again, if we re-sign Mustipher and James Daniels. I've already mentioned that I do want to re-sign James Daniels. The cost is going to be the question. Sam Mustipher, not so much. And so that means that's going to be an open position. And so to me, the guy that I'm looking at in free agency, if I want to upgrade that offensive line at that center spot, is Ryan Jensen. Ryan Jensen, yes, it's not a sexy name. It's not a big name. A lot of you guys, maybe haven't paid attention much to him. But damn, he's a heck of a player, folks. Ryan Jensen is a center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he is a guy who literally checks all the boxes you would want in terms of an offensive lineman that you would like to build around. And let me explain to you why it's important that the Bears go after a center, okay? A center and the quarterback have to work in sync, right? The center is the quarterback of the offensive line. And we're pretty much set at the other positions. Again, we'll see what happens with James Daniels, but even if we don't, we can maybe draft an offensive lineman as well. But imagine putting a solid offensive lineman at the center position to help with Justin Fields. He can be there for the next 10 to 12 years. Ryan Jensen just made his Pro Bowl this last season. He's played every game for the last 5 seasons. That means he's durable. Only 11 penalties in the past 3 seasons, so he doesn't make dumb mistakes. The question is just going to be about price. So Ryan Jensen, it's just going to be a costing. But if you can go out and get him, you should. Look, the Chargers did a similar thing with Justin Herbert going out and getting Corey Linsley. to shore up that offensive line. Now, I know that the Chargers didn't make the playoffs, but Justin Herbert still had a great year, right? It is still about the development of Justin Fields, and I want to invest in that, okay? Again, not the sexiest name, not the biggest name, but Ryan Jensen would be the number one guy I'm targeting if I'm the Chicago Bears, because that offensive line, would be young, nasty, powerful. Oh, that would be great to see. And here's the thing, folks, okay? I want Justin Fields to play a long time in this league. He got hit way too many times last year. Some of that his own fault, but a lot of that because the offensive line was not great. I want to be able to build from the inside out. Build the offensive line and then worry about the rest. So that is why I would like to go out and get a surefire, known commodity in Ryan Jensen. So that's my number one free agent. But let me just say this. If it was not the offensive line, the next spot would be receiver. So I'm going to kind of double dip here in terms of I'll give you also my number one receiver. Okay? And I've given you guys a bunch of my thoughts on all of the big receivers in the free agency class this year, right? Everyone from Godwin, Gallup, OBJ, Mike Williams, DJ Chark, etc., etc. Who is the number one guy I'm targeting if I'm looking at that wide receiver class? Because I'm expecting A-Rob to go. I'm expecting the rest of the wide receivers for the Bears to be gone. So it's really just going to be Darnell Mooney. But let me just quickly say this. The reason why I did not pick receiver as more important than offensive line is because, again, protecting Justin Fields is more important. But, and I always say but, you saw what happened with the Bengals. Drafting Jamar Chase got you to the Super Bowl. Now, Joe Burrow still got hit a lot, and he's literally another season like that from becoming Andrew Luck. So you don't want that. So there's always, caveats to it. There's always another way to look at it. So if it's receiver, who do I want? My number one receiving target for the Bears is Mike Williams. Yes, Mike Williams of the Los Angeles Chargers. The reason I want Mike Williams to me is a couple of things. Number one, I believe he brings the most to the table in terms of the versatility. Okay, the fact is Mike Williams is a big receiver. So if you lose A-Rob, you're losing a big receiver, right? But you've replaced that with the guy in Mike Williams, right? And that means you can use him in the red zone. You can use him the way A-Rob was used. But Mike Williams gives you that vertical down the field threat that A-Rob never gave you because A-Rob was a possession guy. So Mike Williams gives you that, the versatility. And two, he's healthy. Now, I know he's had injury issues in his career. I get that. But take a look at the other wide receivers in free agency, folks. Chris Godwin coming off an ACL tear. Michael Gallup coming off an ACL tear. Odell Beckham Jr. coming off an ACL tear. DJ Chark coming off a leg injury. Who knows if any of these guys will even be ready to start the season, right? Let alone be the same player. So, to me, the least amount of question marks and the most versatility I get in Mike Williams. I can try to put him in the slot, make him go deep, put him in the red zone. I want Mike Williams as my number one receiving target for Justin Fields. So there you have it, folks. My number one overall free agency target at the offensive line position is Ryan Jensen. Number one at the wide receiver position is Mike Williams. And here's the other thing too, folks. This year's draft, pretty deep at receiver, pretty deep at secondary. So yeah, cornerback as well. So maybe we could find some secondary help there. So I'm not too worried. But yeah, folks, as far as who I want in free agency, those are the guys. Let me know if you agree, disagree. Leave a comment down below as always.